After 8 years of dating, my childhood sweetheart treated me like a doormat. Now that I'm married to someone else, he's drowning in regret. Ethan has depression. For 8 years, to keep him emotionally stable, I fulfilled almost his every request. I never said a harsh word to him, never contradicted him, always complied, or he would be on the verge of a breakdown. Occasionally, he would act out and demand that I do absurd things. If I hesitated for even half a second, he'd accuse me of not loving him at all and argue endlessly. In the end, it was always me who compromised and gave in. Everyone said I was Ethan's doormat, completely devoted to him. But just as we were about to get married, I vanished without a word. 3 years later, when we met again, Ethan's eyes were bloodshot as he asked where I had been all those years. I replied nonchalantly, "Oh, I got married to someone else." Coming out of the mall, when someone stopped me in the middle of the main street, I was a little stunned. I didn't know Kevin, but his expression was incredibly agitated. "Grace, you're alive, come on, let's go back. Ethan has been searching for you like crazy all these years. Now that you're finally back, he can." I pulled my hand away and cut him off curtly. "Excuse me, who are you? I've never seen anyone just drag someone off the street like this." Kevin froze, pointing at himself. "Me? I'm Ethan's friend. We met back then, we even ate together often. Don't you remember?" I had completely forgotten. Ethan had a lot of friends. Back then, to get along with them and hope they'd look out for Ethan, I often organized meals for everyone. Perhaps back then, I could have named the person in front of me. But 3 years had passed. I could barely remember Ethan's voice, let alone just one of his friends. I stepped back, not wanting to get further entangled with Kevin. "You've got the wrong person." But he wouldn't give up. "Impossible. I would never mistake you. 3 years ago, you mysteriously vanished from your wedding. Later, some said you had a car accident, but no body was found, dead or alive. Ethan would drag us to look at your photos every day while searching for you. I could recognize you with my eyes closed." I hadn't realized this whole story unfolded after I left. If I had known 2 years earlier, perhaps I would have been touched, thinking Ethan still cared about me. But now, I felt nothing but annoyance. "Oh, it's me. So what? Of course, you're coming back with me. Don't you miss Ethan?" "No, I don't. I'm married and have a child. Please don't bother me anymore." My nonchalant words made Kevin's mouth gape open, muttering to himself. "How is that possible? You loved Ethan so much, you were so good to him. Weren't you his doormat childhood sweetheart?" The combination of doormat and childhood sweethearts was absurd, but it was indeed true. Ethan and I grew up together as childhood sweethearts. After my first love blossomed, I spent 10 years as his doormat. Even after becoming his girlfriend, I carried that ugly reputation for a long time. It was because I genuinely loved and cared for him that I gave him my all. Back then, Ethan was a notorious problem child at school. His father was imprisoned for assault, and his mother remarried and moved far away, leaving him alone in the old apartment complex. I lived in another old apartment complex next door, and my bedroom window faced his bedroom window. Growing up, from that window, I had glimpsed many parts of Ethan's life. For instance, his parents didn't get along and often argued at home. During these times, Ethan would lock himself in his bedroom, covering one ear with a hand while doing his homework with the other. Sometimes he would cry, hunched over the table by the window. I'd call his name, but he wouldn't respond, which made me anxious. I once threw 2 candies through the window, signaling to him with gestures, "If you eat the candy, you won't be sad anymore." I was even the one who discovered his depression. It was a gloomy day. I was in my bedroom when I heard a furious shout and the sound of glass shattering from across the way. Worried about Ethan, I peeked out and saw Mr. Miller, out of breath, striking Mrs. Miller with a vase. Ethan stood nearby, his face blank. He picked up a glass shard from the floor and dragged it across his wrist. I can't describe the terror of that moment. I fumbled out of my bedroom to call the police. Later, Mr. Miller went to prison for assault, and Mrs. Miller, after recovering from her injuries, left some money and went off with another man. Ethan was sent to see a psychologist and was diagnosed with severe depression. I knew almost everything about Ethan, his pain, the vulnerability hidden beneath his tough exterior. So, no matter how much gossip circulated about him at school, I never considered distancing myself. Instead, I enthusiastically drew closer to him. "Ethan, look at me. Ethan, give me a smile. Ethan, wait for me after school so we can go home together." I did all these things, tirelessly. Besides that, every week when Ethan went to the hospital for therapy, I'd take time off to accompany him. The door would close, he'd be inside the therapist's office, and I'd be outside, even more anxious than he was. Another time, I went to his class to deliver something and found him being bullied. A girl, looking down on him, demanded he explain how he cut his wrists. Behind her, several boys scoffed and laughed, occasionally calling him crazy and saying his dad was a murderer. My blood ran cold. I rushed forward, pushed aside the people surrounding him, and shielded him with outstretched arms. Depression isn't craziness, and his dad's mistakes have nothing to do with him. If you bully him again, I'll tell the teacher. Their faces fell, and they scattered. I took Ethan to the rooftop and gave him the cake I had made last night. Today was his birthday. Happy 16th birthday. It was a simple birthday cake, without candles. Ethan took a bite, his eyes red-rimmed, and said it was too sweet. He didn't realize cake could be so sweet. In reality, it wasn't that the cake was too sweet, it was that Ethan had never had a birthday cake before. As far as I could remember, Ethan's home life was always turbulent. Of course, no one would remember his birthday. I whispered, "Make a wish, Ethan. Just wish that your life will be smooth from now on, and that you'll receive countless love." Ethan pursed his lips and said he'd share a wish with me. So I closed my eyes too. He asked what I wished for. I opened my eyes and said I wouldn't tell him, but secretly hoped my wish would definitely come true. Even then, some kids at school were calling me Ethan's doormat, but I didn't care. After high school graduation, I secretly applied to the same university as Ethan, then confessed my feelings to him. He confirmed repeatedly, asking if I was sure, and I kept nodding. Finally, he took my hand and said that if we were together, we could never separate. At that age, I was young and naive, too confident, thinking how could two people in love ever separate? Besides, Ethan and I had known each other for 18 years. We understood each other and had been through so much. Our connection was special, nothing could break us apart. But I never considered that Ethan might not have liked me at all, only used me as a vessel for his emotions. The first time this thought occurred to me was in my junior year, when Ethan and I had a huge fight. The reason was that I had gotten an internship, and there were more male colleagues around. Since I was still a student, they were all very helpful. Ethan came to pick me up from work and happened to see a colleague hand me a cup of bubble tea, then he exploded at me. At first, I patiently tried to appease him, until he cursed me with the most vicious words. As he cursed, he brought up many other things. It was all about his work not going well, how his record included his father's imprisonment and his own depression, and how colleagues and superiors looked at him with loaded gazes. Finally, he said sarcastically that I had it good, with all the male colleagues falling over themselves to be helpful. I was trembling with rage and asked him, "Ethan, are you angry that I'm close to my male colleagues, or are you just taking out your frustrations on me because of your own problems?" Ethan and I parted on bad terms. I thought he was completely out of line. But after a few days without seeing him, I grew restless. Perhaps he hadn't meant it maliciously, but just had too strong a possessive streak. It was normal for him to be in a bad mood with his internship not going well. Besides, he had depression. I should be more understanding and comforting, not arguing and getting angry with him. I thus talked myself into feeling better and went to make up with Ethan. I told him he didn't have to do the internship if he was unhappy. I could support him in the future. I envisioned our future life together. I'd go to work, he'd do things he enjoyed at home, and we'd eat dinner at the same table every evening. That kind of life seemed nice too. He then suggested renting a place outside, wanting to live together sooner. With graduation approaching, I agreed, using half of my internship salary to pay for rent, then moved in with him. Perhaps it was because of this that Ethan was convinced I couldn't leave him and would endlessly reflect on myself to accommodate him. So his temper grew worse. Any little thing that displeased him would lead to an argument, or even him harming himself. The most terrifying time was during a company team-building event. My colleagues and I went to see a movie. When I returned home, what I saw upon opening the door was Ethan, pale as paper, blood dripping from his wrist. My heart instantly seized with terror. I forced myself to steady my trembling legs, gave him a quick bandage, then dragged him out to the hospital. Ethan didn't say a word the entire time. Only as we neared the hospital, he leaned close and whispered in my ear, "Grace, why did you go to see a movie with other people? Don't you love me anymore?" "No, I love you, I do. It was a company event, I didn't go see a movie alone with anyone. I promise I won't go again, okay? You know I have depression, and you still provoke me like this? Aren't you afraid I'll die in front of you?" Tears welled up, and I said I was afraid. Ethan chuckled softly, "Since you're afraid, don't provoke me like that again. Come straight home after work, and don't leave me alone at home anymore, okay?" I nodded, choking back tears, and sent him into the emergency room. The next day, I went to see a psychologist again. The psychologist administered assessment scales. Over the years, his depression hadn't improved, he had also developed obsessive-compulsive disorder and paranoia. The psychologist said he might see me as his emotional anchor, the most important person in his life. That's why his reactions were so extreme. He suggested I indulge him more to stabilize his emotions. I walked out of the office. Ethan was sitting on a bench in the hallway, waiting for me. He looked up, and those eyes were beautiful. I suddenly remembered my childhood. My parents were both doctors, busy year-round and rarely seen. Only a nanny took care of me at home. I never attended kindergarten parent-child activities, and no one ever came to my elementary school parent-teacher conferences. So I always felt like an outsider among my peers. Back then, Ethan wasn't like he is now. The small boy took my hand and said we were alike. His parents never spent time with him either. He would play with me when I was lonely, pull me to his secret hideout after school, tell me fairy tales, and even childishly say we'd attend each other's parent-teacher conferences someday. His eyes shone bright and clear. He had once healed me, now it was my turn to heal him. Even if his personality wasn't great now, he was still my beloved. He was just sick. No matter what, I wouldn't be pushed away or scared off. I decided that from then on, aside from work necessities, I would no longer have other social relationships. I would also regard Ethan as the most important person in my life, with everyone and everything else coming after him. I walked over and took his hand, saying we were going home. But I didn't notice the dark, mocking gaze he cast behind my back. Much later, I would realize that even the psychologist had been fooled by Ethan. He had fooled me too, and he hated me, despised me. He had never loved me, not from the beginning. In the blink of an eye, Ethan's 26th birthday arrived. This was also our 8th year together. Over these 8 years, Ethan and I had had our arguments, but we'd stumbled through them. This year, his birthday also happened to fall on our dating anniversary, making it especially significant. A month before his birthday, I started preparing his gift, but I accidentally found a ring box at home, hidden in the deepest part of the closet. It was a beautiful ring, the diamonds shining brilliantly. My heart pounded. I guessed Ethan might propose to me on his birthday. After all, 2 months prior, I had used several years' worth of savings to pay the down payment for a house. Ethan hadn't worked since graduating from college. But he was doing quite well with his stock investments now, and both our situations were stable. We were also at an age where a proposal would be perfectly fitting. I carefully put the ring box back in its original place, eagerly anticipating his birthday. However, on the day of his birthday, when we arrived at the hotel I had booked in advance, Ethan was dissatisfied with the cake I had ordered. He demanded I go buy him a new one, and insisted I walk. The design on the cake isn't even symmetrical. Are you not serious, Abo? You tease me? Grace, you said you loved me and would treat me well, is this how you do it? Actually, I had noticed the slight asymmetry when I picked up the cake. But Ethan was rushing me, and there was no time to ask the bakery to remake it, so I just grabbed it and left. Therefore, facing Ethan's displeasure now, I had nothing to defend myself with. I just said that it was raining outside, and could I take a taxi to buy a new cake? I'm also on my period today. Even with an umbrella, the cold air would. Ethan curled his lips and cut me off. Who said you could take an umbrella? I want you to walk precisely because I want you to get rained on. I froze, unable to believe that in front of all his friends today, he would humiliate me like this. He lifted his eyelids to look at me. Grace, it's my birthday today, you wouldn't want to make me unhappy, would you? His friends chimed in, advising me excitedly, yeah, Grace, just think of it as fulfilling his birthday wish. Why upset him? He only has one birthday a year. I was silent, said I understood, then picked up my phone to search for the nearest cake shop. When I left the hotel, the rain wasn't heavy. I walked under the eaves along the street, feeling both angry and wronged. I thought that when Ethan proposed later, I'd have to play hard to get before saying yes. By the time I was on my way back, the rain had intensified. I walked 3 kilometers in the downpour, soaking wet, and returned to the hotel, thinking Ethan would finally be satisfied. But before entering the private dining room, I overheard Ethan talking to his friends. Ethan, didn't your depression get better? Why are you still messing with Grace so much? Seeing her obey like a doormat is amusing, isn't it? What, are you feeling sorry for her? Ethan's voice was full of malice. I suspected I had misheard, but I couldn't deceive myself. A burst of laughter erupted in the private dining room. Someone said there was no need to pity me, that I'd served it. Someone else said they wouldn't dare pity me, knowing I only cared for Ethan, and that I was Ethan's undisputed number one doormat. They were all Ethan's friends, not a single one spoke up for me. I shivered slightly, a sharp pain twisting my abdomen. In a daze, many thoughts flashed through my mind. For example, in recent years, ever since Ethan forced me with his wrist-cutting attempt, I had given up my social life. For example, for the sake of his recovery, I had always encouraged him to make more friends, so that he wouldn't only have me around. That's why this situation came to be today. I had no friends, while he and his friends discussed me as if I were a mere ornament. The cake I was carrying was swaying precariously. I looked down and realized that no matter how well I had protected it on the way, rainwater had seeped in and smudged the frosting. It didn't look good anymore, and Ethan wouldn't like it. If he saw this cake, he would just get angry and upset. He'd say his OCD was acting up and blame me for making him feel awful. I lifted my hand and tossed the cake into the trash can in the corner. I turned and walked out of the hotel, taking a taxi home. When I got home, Ethan finally sent a message, asking why I hadn't bought the cake yet. But I was busy taking a hot shower and making hot tea, so I didn't get around to replying to him. After I had sorted myself out, I went into the bedroom and rummaged through the closet. The ring box was still there. Ethan clearly had no intention of proposing to me that night. It was even possible that the ring wasn't meant for me at all. I was startled by this sudden thought, but quickly dismissed it. Impossible. Other than me, Ethan didn't know any other women. Who else would he buy a ring for? Perplexed, I quickly fell asleep on the sofa. I don't know how much time passed before I was vaguely shaken awake, the bright light stinging my eyes. Ethan was squatting in front of me, his expression displeased, K's. Tioning me like a barrage of bullets. Why did you come back alone and leave me at the hotel? What about the cake I told you to buy? Do you know how much you embarrassed me in front of my friends? Why aren't you answering your phone or my messages? Speak up. I wanted to speak, but when I opened my mouth, my throat was dry and sore, and my head felt heavy. I belatedly realized I must have a fever. I should have taken some cold medicine before sleeping. I grabbed Ethan's hand. I have a fever. Can you help me find some medicine first? He impatiently tisked, shaking off my hand. How would I know where the medicine is at home? Don't talk to me, Grace, I hate you, you're not good to me at all. With that, he got up and left. The sound of the bedroom door closing echoed in my ears, and my head throbbed dully. I dragged myself up, found the medicine cabinet under the TV, took the medicine, and lay back on the sofa. After a long moment, a bitter laugh escaped me. Ethan, what more could I do for you? The wish you shared with me when you were 16, I wished that you would be happy, year after year, forever. I placed you in the most important part of my heart, so I fulfilled your every request. But my devotion and indulgence were met with you speaking about me like that to others. The next morning, Ethan was in the kitchen, asking what I wanted for breakfast as if nothing had happened last night. I was used to his mood swings, and it felt inappropriate to dwell on his words and attitude from last night, so I didn't show any emotion. After a night's sleep, most of the fever had broken, but I still felt a little unwell. I looked at the breakfast Ethan had prepared and said some oatmeal would be fine. He served a bowl of porridge and placed it in front of me. Seeing my calm expression, he immediately frowned. I'm being good to you, and you have no reaction, huh? Grace, you weren't like this before. Ha, you've changed after all. You had the nerve to say you'd love me forever when you were chasing me. Seeing his unreasonable behavior, I sighed helplessly and forced a smile to appease him, but I could clearly feel my strength waning. I began to doubt myself, whether I could continue this relationship. The resolve I once had, saying we'd never separate, seemed to have been gradually worn away over these 8 years. Feeling guilty and terrified, I tossed and turned for several days, finally deciding I had to talk to Ethan properly. Before I could find the right moment, Ethan had a high school reunion to attend. Remembering the bullying he suffered in high school, I offered to go with him, but he flatly refused. We weren't in the same class in high school, what would you go for? Besides, we're all adults now. Do you think I'd still be bullied? He said, then went to the closet to pick out clothes, even specifically putting on a tie. A strange feeling washed over me. He rarely cared so much about his appearance. After he left, I went to the closet and felt for the ring box. It wasn't there. My heart sank. Ethan came home very late that night, in a good mood. He took off his clothes to wash up. Perhaps because I never restricted him or checked his phone, he hadn't set up any defenses against me. I easily got hold of his phone, searched for some keywords, and a girl's profile popped up. The girl asked Ethan, "Does your girlfriend know you gave someone else a ring?" Ethan replied, "She's not important, you're the one I've always liked. But I heard you two had a good relationship all these years." "She was just constantly hounding me. I never liked her, and I even hated her. If she hadn't called the police back then, my dad wouldn't have become a known murderer, my mom wouldn't have abandoned me because my dad went to jail, and I wouldn't have been bullied at school. It's ridiculous how she thought she was saving me. So I just played along with her. All these years, I've been playing her like a doormat, stringing her along. Ridiculous, truly ridiculous. It felt as if my breathing stopped, and my vision went white. I trembled as I looked through this girl's social media. Her selfies were beautifully sophisticated and bold. I scrolled through them one by one, finally remembering that this person was Brittany, the leader of the small group that bullied Ethan in high school. Ethan had commented under almost every one of her posts, praising her beauty. And the girl had once posted, saying she wanted a ring. So Ethan's ring was bought for her. How ironic. Ethan didn't hate his father for domestic violence, didn't hate the people who bullied him, didn't hate his mother for escaping the abuse and choosing to abandon him. He only hated me, so much that he would toy with and deceive me like this. All these years, he had intentionally gotten angry with me, intentionally claimed emotional instability to make me accommodate him. He watched coldly as I was exhausted and heartbroken, yet foolishly said I loved him, probably mocking me in his heart for who knows how long. In those few minutes, I cried and laughed, desperately trying to suppress my voice, almost losing my mind. I forgot how I managed to put the phone back in his pocket and sit back on the sofa before Ethan came out of the bathroom, pretending nothing had happened. Ethan didn't notice anything unusual about me. He casually pulled out a ring and handed it to me. At the high school reunion today, I realized a lot of people are already married. "Grace, I think we can get married too." Unlike the diamond ring, this one was cheap, like something bought for $2 from a street stall, and his excuse didn't sound sincere. It was then that I realized he truly didn't care about me, or perhaps he was certain I would agree no matter what. I took the ring, smiled, and said I would. Ethan wiped the dampness from the corner of my eye with his thumb. "You're that happy to hear we're getting married?" "Yes, I've always wanted to marry you." I didn't want to guess why Ethan would suddenly propose to me. This was probably just another part of his game, stringing me along. Would he humiliate me at the wedding? Or simply run away and leave me overjoyed for nothing? Both were possible. If that were the case, why should I take this wedding seriously? So, when Ethan asked about wedding details and guest invitations, I said, "Keep it simple, and the sooner, the better." Ethan thought I was eager to marry him, unaware that I just wanted to get my revenge quickly. Finally, at that wedding, just when the bride was supposed to make her entrance, I took off my wedding dress and walked away. I didn't bother to find out what happened to Ethan afterward. I simply decided not to love him anymore, not to worry about his emotions, and not to dedicate my entire being to him. I was going to live my own life. Until 3 years later, I encountered an acquaintance. That day, taking advantage of Kevin's stunned moment, I quickly slipped into the crowd. But after returning home, I remained unsettled. My daughter, just over a year old, couldn't speak clearly yet, but she could already sense my mood. She used her chubby little hand to touch my mouth. "Mommy, smile, smile." Her cuteness melted me. I kissed her cheek. "It's okay, everything will be fine when your daddy comes home." But the first person to arrive was Ethan, showing up at my door. Seeing him looking dusty and disheveled, with bloodshot eyes, I knew what was coming. At that moment, I was holding my daughter, about to go for a walk in the park, when Ethan abruptly appeared before me. He carefully reached out and touched me, as if afraid I was a hallucination. "Grace, it's really you, thank goodness. Do you know how long I've been looking for you? I heard you were seen around here, and I've been going door to door, asking everyone. Where have you been these 3 years?" His voice trembled. My expression was calm. I told my daughter in my arms to call him uncle. "As you can see, I got married and had a daughter." Ethan went wild. "Why? Why did you leave me back then? We were about to get married. Didn't you love me the most? How could you marry someone else and have a child?" "For 3 years, I had insomnia every single night. After you vanished from the wedding, I searched for you constantly. The news I got was that you'd been in a car accident, neither dead nor alive. Do you know what I went through these past 3 years?" I didn't know, but I noticed his wrists were covered in crisscrossing scars. He was gaunt and emaciated, looking more like someone with depression than he had 3 years ago. "Ethan, didn't your depression get better? Why are you still messing with Grace so much? Seeing her obey like a doormat is amusing, isn't it? What, are you feeling sorry for her?" I repeated that conversation from 3 years ago, word for word. With each word, Ethan's face grew a shade paler. I looked at him mockingly. Do you think I still care what you went through these past 3 years? He opened his mouth, struggling to defend himself. Is that why? You overheard that, that's why you left me. But I just said it casually. Grace, I can apologize. You can't just leave me because of that. I know I was wrong. I won't say things like that again. You can hit me to vent your anger, you can treat me like a doormat. I frowned deeply and took a step back. Ethan looked genuinely disturbed now, and what he was saying was quite ironic. 3 years ago, Ethan would never have apologized to me so humbly, nor would I have been able to lash out at him. Finding him annoying, I simply took my daughter and went home. He followed me closely, step by step, all the way to my doorstep. I turned back and warned him. If you come one step closer, I'll call the police immediately. I also have 2 nannies at home. Are you sure you want to keep following me? Ethan stood not far away, his gaze persistent and stubborn. Even if you call the police, I'll keep following you. I can't let you disappear again. Grace, I don't care that you're married and have a child. As long as you come back, I'll be waiting for you right here. I took a deep breath. Before I could roll my eyes, the door opened. Wait, am I hearing someone trying to steal my wife? My eyes lit up, and I turned to throw myself into the arms of the man who spoke. Marcus, why are you back so early? Marcus's eyes were gentle. I was already worried about you bringing our daughter back overseas by yourself, so I skipped the last 2 days of events. I came back as soon as I finished my activities. He changed his tone. Now I see it's a good thing I came back early. Wife, this wouldn't be that jerk ex-boyfriend of yours, would it? I pouted. It is him. Ethan, who had just been subtly mocked by Marcus, looked upset. Who are you to speak to me like that? Marcus Tisked covered our daughter's ears, and told the nanny to take her inside. He then possessively put his arm around me. I'm Grace's legitimate husband. Shouldn't I be asking what you are, ex-boyfriend? Ethan fumed. What do you mean ex-boyfriend? Grace and I never broke up. We've known each other for over 20 years, and been together for almost 10. Do you have the right to judge our relationship? Why are you butting in? Marcus's expression darkened, and he gritted his teeth. I knew how much he cared about my past with Ethan, so I quickly patted him, trying to soothe him. Ethan saw my gesture, and his eyes instantly reddened, looking very wronged. Grace, how long have you known him? How could you be willing to marry him and have a child with him? Are you doing this just to spite me? I looked at him coldly. Don't think too highly of yourself. Marrying him and having a child with him is my choice. Marcus's expression brightened at my words. I took his hand. Let's go, honey. Don't mind him, he's lost it. Wait. Don't I deserve an explanation for what happened 3 years ago? Are you abandoning me just because I said the wrong thing? Grace, you didn't love me that much back then, did you? Hearing Ethan still mention love, I felt genuinely disgusted. He always accused me of not loving him, used love to manipulate me into doing so many things. Who was the one who truly didn't love? I turned back, looking down at him from the top of the stairs. Originally, I didn't want to bring up the past. I felt that you had deceived me, and I ran from the wedding, so we were even. But now you insist on asking, then I'll tell you, Ethan. I knew you bought a diamond ring for someone else and told them you never loved me, that you only hated me for calling the police and getting your dad imprisoned, and your mom remarried, hated me for making you suffer bullying. It's truly strange. If you don't love me, why would you care that I abandoned you? Ethan's pupils dilated. His legs gave out, and he almost fell to his knees. You knew all along? So you deliberately disappeared from the wedding. I curved my lips into a smile. Yes, I knew everything. I can explain, Grace, I can explain, no need. I pulled Marcus towards the door. Behind me, Ethan desperately begged me to look back at him one more time. Aren't you afraid I'll die in front of you? Oh, then go ahead and die. But I knew Ethan wasn't the type of person to genuinely give up his life. Just as back then, when he threatened to cut his wrists to make me abandon my social circle, he timed it perfectly, only acting when I was about to return home. It was only after leaving him that I discovered his true nature. He was fundamentally selfish, twisted and insecure due to his upbringing, and full of dark calculations. The door closed. Marcus looked worried, asking how I was feeling. I chuckled. Don't worry, I don't care about him at all anymore. That's good. I was afraid you might soften up, given all those years you had to give. Marcus buried his head on my shoulder. 2 years into our marriage, he was as clingy as ever. I knew he felt insecure about Ethan, especially since he knew how disheartened I had been 3 years ago because of him. Indeed, I had been in a car accident on my way to escape the wedding, unconscious, and nearly dying. I was sent to the hospital where Marcus worked. After the emergency surgery, he decided to take me to a private rehabilitation center overseas. Coincidentally, he and his mentor were conducting research overseas, and I voluntarily became their test subject. Initially, Marcus just checked on me normally every day. Later, he noticed I would always stare out the window, silent. Concerned about my mental state, he tried to counsel me, and that's when I told him my story with Ethan. During that time, I was very lost and deeply caught in severe self-reproach. I didn't know what to do. My life, all 20-something years of it, felt like a joke. I even thought Ethan's hatred for me was justified, as if I had truly done something wrong to harm him. Then I thought about my impulsive decision to agree to marry him and then run away from the wedding. Ethan didn't love me. How could I possibly get revenge on him like this? Instead, I only ended up getting into a car accident for nothing. I cried all night, night after night. Even when I slept, all my dreams were about Ethan. It was Marcus who patiently encouraged me to move on. He would take me out to get some sun, and bring me books or paintbrushes. He hoped I'd find a hobby, and he also suggested I contact my parents to rebuild our relationship. They had disowned me after I insisted on being with Ethan. Looking back, they had been very prescient. They said that if I stayed with Ethan, he would eventually drain all my energy and leave me completely empty. But at the time, I simply wouldn't listen. Luckily, I met Marcus, who was completely different from Ethan. He was emotionally stable, positive, and bright. Most of the time, he was the one who was understanding and comforting towards me. I stayed at the rehabilitation center for almost a year to heal all my wounds. Both my physical and emotional wounds slowly healed, and I developed feelings for Marcus. When he first confessed his feelings for me, he didn't even expect me to say yes, he just wanted me to know that I was liked and loved. When I did say yes, he worried that my acceptance wasn't out of love, but out of gratitude or a desire to escape. I had to tell him again and again that my acceptance had nothing to do with anything else. It was just that after walking the line between life and death, letting go of Ethan happened much faster than I had anticipated. And I wasn't lacking the courage to fall in love again. Marcus and I got married overseas, then I became pregnant and had a child. We waited until his research project was finished before returning home, which was perfect for taking our daughter to see her grandparents. Running into Ethan again was unexpected, and I couldn't understand why he was being so persistent. At that moment, Ethan was crouching outside Grace's home, smelling the dinner wafting from inside, and hearing the laughter and happy chatter. Tears welled up in his eyes unknowingly. He could have had such a happy home himself. When he was with Grace, she would take care of everything in their life. She would tell him she loved him, cook for him, rarely get angry with him, and was always afraid of him being even slightly unhappy. He thought he hated Grace, that she had ruined everything for him. If Grace hadn't called the police back then, perhaps his family could have remained intact after his father had calmed down. Or perhaps if Grace had simply watched him bleed to death from his wrist back then, he wouldn't have had to suffer later. He also resented Grace for making him lose the chance to be with Brittany. Brittany was the girl who had led the bullying and teasing against him in high school. BF. For his family's troubles, he had actually secretly admired her. She was vibrant and flamboyant, like a proud swan. Even when she bullied him, he didn't feel it was too much. Perhaps what he couldn't have was what lingered most in his mind, so even after all these years, he was still infatuated enough to buy her a diamond ring and send those disparaging and hateful messages about Grace. But after Grace left, he realized that the person who loved him most, and the only one who loved him, was gone. And he had long since become unable to live without Grace. At that wedding, he attended in full dress, his heart wavering between actually going through with it or delivering a fatal blow to Grace at her happiest moment. But he hesitated from dawn till dusk, and Grace never appeared. He frantically searched for her, but all he got was a vague piece of news. Someone had been in a car accident near the wedding hotel. In that moment, he felt like dying. He silently vowed that as long as Grace was alive, he would marry her and they would live a good life together. But in the end, he couldn't find Grace at the accident scene or in any of the city's hospitals. He didn't know if it was good news or bad news. Grace had simply vanished as if into thin air. So, finding Grace became his greatest reason for living. But it was too late. Everything was too late. 3 years passed, and Grace was now married with a child. It seemed, she no longer loved him. Ethan stayed crouching outside Grace's house until the next day. When he was startled awake by a sound, Grace was about to leave, with Marcus holding their daughter behind her. Ethan's gaze darkened. Grace frowned deeply, telling him to get lost, but Marcus said it was fine. If he wants to follow, let him follow. So Ethan meekly followed them. He watched Grace take her daughter to the community clinic to get her vaccinations. When the child cried, Marcus immediately took her, not wanting Grace to be burdened. He saw them taking a walk together. Marcus bought Grace cotton candy and ice cream, things only children usually ate, and Grace smiled so happily. When she was with him, she never seemed to have been that simply, purely, and carefree happy. He had never bought her anything either. He also saw Grace and Marcus holding hands and kissing, with an aura of happiness all around them. He knew why Marcus allowed him to follow. It was to show him how much better Grace was doing without him. Ethan disappeared at some point. He no longer lurked outside our door every day like a shadowy mouse, which was, of course, a good thing. The next time I heard about him was from a news report pushed to my phone. It reported that a man had taken sleeping pills and then drunk alcohol at home, and was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. I recognized Ethan's blurry profile in the video. My feelings were complicated for a few seconds, but then I just dismissed it from my mind. Before I knew it, it was the end of the year, and our daughter's second birthday arrived. Marcus and I baked her a cake together. She was incredibly excited, running all over the room. Pressing her face against the window, she cried, "Mommy, snow, snow." Marcus and I also went to the window, where we noticed a figure hastily trying to hide not far away. The figure hid behind a tree, but couldn't resist peeking out again. Even though we couldn't clearly see his face, we could sense he was wistful and envious. I pulled the curtain shut. "We'll take you out to play once the snow stops, sweetie. For now, let's come and blow out the candles, okay?" Our daughter blew out the candles, her little mouth mumbling a wish for mommy, daddy, and herself to be together forever. Marcus and I exchanged a smile, both knowing that her wish would come true. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.